Yeah, and this is something, again, that's very difficult to, it's difficult to legislate in terms of how professors ought to treat their students. There are certain basic ethical principles, you know, the kind of dismissive terms that I might use from Mal about, you know, his asterisk idea is completely idiotic. I would not use that in a class with a student. I mean, there are certain things that you try to avoid doing with students, that you try to be more concerned about nurturing them and encouraging them to speak out rather than just, you know, viciously pummeling them with every idea you've got. But again, there are lots of different ways to teach, and I think it's very important to be careful not to try and impose one pedagogical approach that I prefer above what someone else is doing, which might work out well for them or for particular students. So I think that there is the danger that students, as was brought up in the past question, the students will tell professors what they think the professors want them to say. And that's something that I know conservative students are particularly concerned about, but it's something all students do. And even students on the left will occasionally, you'll hear them complaining about that as well. I think what you have to do, and you know, in teaching, I've been somewhat unsuccessful in the few classes I've taught of really getting people to disagree with me. It can be very difficult. You people are ridiculously apathetic, but you know, I think it's something that's important for students to speak out in class, especially conservative students, to try and make sure everyone then takes an example. The best thing a professor can have, I think, in a class is a student who disagrees with them, because it makes other people willing to speak out, and it generates a genuine debate. It's just something that's very difficult to do, and it's not always possible in every class. I think that's why it's important for conservatives and liberal students alike to make their views known in a more public way of getting debates, starting campus newspapers, you know, doing things like speaking out class, because there are lots of classes where there isn't going to be a lot of debate of ideas. In math class and engineering class, there are a lot of classes that have this principle of objectivity very deeply within them, and for good reasons, that you're not going to have this kind of debate, and you need to bring it into the extracurricular aspects of class when you can't bring it into the classroom. And so I think that's a responsibility of students as well as faculty to try and make sure that different ideas get heard and people are encouraged to say what they believe, and not to think that there's some sort of consensus out there, a hidden consensus that maybe doesn't really exist.
I'm just curious. Here's another one of those questions I don't know the answer to. How many of you have never been around this many conservatives in your life? The rest of you go to Liberty? Okay. All right. How many within that subset find themselves more free to reveal what their politics are this summer when they're away from school than they do during the semester? Is that too convoluted? Okay. Okay. We're noticing and have noticed over about a quarter century fewer students, hate to use this analogy, but coming out of the closet as conservatives. And there's only really one place we can trace that back to, which is the campus. Of course, you've got a double whammy going now that AIA did not have when we started. It used to be us questioning the professors with the administrators kind of off to the sidelines. Administrators have become increasingly heavy-handed. Speech codes came from administrators. I'll blame professors for a lot, but they're mostly pretty clear on that one. Diversity courses came from administrators. There's an op-ed in today's Investors Business Daily, I think, from a young lady from Furman College, all about the bias on campus. And I think 18 paragraphs, 2 are devoted to her professors. All the rest is devoted to administration, curriculum, orientation week, diversity courses, etc. Diversity courses that want one way of thinking. I never quite understood that. And